when you're a techie, when you're involved in the realization of solutions to problems that exist around you that aren't available on the market, you're already in a space where you are building what is going to be tomorrow's normal behavior.
Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. It's a joy for me to be your host one more time. The more I do this podcast with my guests, the happier I feel because I know we're impacting the world in such a good way. Today, we have with us another amazing leader, CEO of an organization that is changing this world for a better place. And I know we're going to get blessed with his wisdom. So, Duncan, brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Duncan, for the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Sure, I'm Duncan Weatherston. I am one of the founders and the CEO of a health data company called Smile Digital Health. We're founded, we operate out of Toronto, but we're global. We have clients in 20 countries around the world. And it's been an amazing journey over the past 6 years as we grew from a tiny startup to a company that has had opportunities to interact with people in every walk of life in pursuit of better global health.
So when you say health data, can you be more specific? Like, how are you making a difference? How are you impacting your clients?
One of the big challenges we're facing in healthcare is affordability and access. One of the big challenges, I'll give you two there. Amongst the big challenges in healthcare are affordability and access. If you think about the way every other industry has kind of approached their transformation lately, it has been on the back of the use of information and the use of internet services and networking capabilities to make information globally and services globally available. Healthcare has not managed to make that transition effectively yet. We've tried for many years. I first got involved in health implementations of data solutions early in the 2000s. And so for the past 20, 25 years, we've been trying to figure out ways to use information to deliver care more effectively. One of the challenges that has been persistent is that healthcare really does have a strong binding to semantics, things like the way we define disease names. So if I tell you that somebody has a particular disease, let's say we were to talk about, something like a common cold. If I were to say someone has a common cold, that just the English language version of that may be interpreted multiple ways in clinical settings. So what we have to be able to do is come up with a terminology that is concrete, explaining what diagnosis has been created for a person, and then be able to make that clear description available to all the participants in that person's care journey, so everybody understands specifically what diagnoses have been made. And so that type of semantic interoperability, where when I say somebody has this condition, the clinician elsewhere can understand exactly what condition I think they're talking about, has been a big challenge. We have a lot of text strings in healthcare and not a lot of structured data. There's much more structured data than just nomenclature and terminology, though. There is the relationships between pieces, right? So whether you've got parents or children, who your siblings are, when you think about the characteristics of a person, all of their vital statistics, all of their encounters, all of the observations that come from laboratories or diagnostic imaging, or all of the scheduling, or all of those components that sort of address the overall interaction with healthcare, each require us to have a mechanism of communicating those ideas in a way that is comprehensible to others. So in that milieu of lots of information, we haven't yet managed to come up with an easy methodology for all the participants to communicate these ideas in an effective fashion without having substantial analysis done, either by a very trained and skilled person like a clinician, or through transformation problems where you have to use point technologies to solve between application A and application B. The other piece that is really hard is when you think about access to healthcare, right now you have to go to a clinical environment, or you have to engage with a clinical setting to be able to receive care. And all of the use cases we think about healthcare, I mean, we've gotten a bit better as a consequence of our experience going through COVID, providing some degree of remote care. But in general, all of our interactions with healthcare are in-person activities. And, looking at banking and food and parking and everything else, we know that there are methodologies to try and abstract away from those in-person activities and start being able to provide much, much more service online. And so our platform, the way we think about the world is, let's get all of the data normalized so that we can start using it in ways that allow us to deliver care in an effective manner, using modern technologies, using a pathway that's familiar to all of us when we think about internet, right? When you think about the way you would do your banking, you just go to an app on your phone. When you think about the way that you would do your music selection, you just go to an app on your phone. Healthcare should be that convenient for you. And it should be that attached to your own personal records. It should be being driven by data that is specific to you. Stuff which is coming off of your devices, stuff which is collected from all the people you've encountered, all the clinical engagements you've had. All of it should be aggregated and then made reasonably available to any system that is going to provide you with better information. That could be a clinical encounter you have with better system information for doctors. That could be a better set of data available to home care, or it could be a better set of data available to an application that's going to give you advice on how to move forward. So we have this very big idea around how you can use information and automation to transform healthcare, how that then drives access globally, because everybody's got access to information pathways these days through cell phones, and how we can then roll that out in ways that drive costs down and efficiency up. Because the last piece about healthcare, of course, is the affordability issue associated with it. As we get better and better technologies available for delivering care, the costs go up and up. We have to find some way to start reducing those costs. And we can reduce those costs by driving automation across the system. So that's what we're up to. That's how we're going to try and deliver value.
That's amazing. So you already have a platform, an application that people are using to get their customized health data?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're working with payers, providers, governments. We're in 20 countries, and we have as many use cases as we have clients. People have uses in which they build their hospital applications on top of us, or others who have research solutions using us, or some people are underpinning, personal data views on top of us. Others are doing payer engagement. We have a whole variety of clients and users, and all the opportunity to try and transform care everywhere.
This is one of the most fascinating areas of industry for me. As you know, I run a software consulting firm, so we build custom applications to grow people's profits. And one of our main clients right now is in Malaysia. This is a clinic, a private clinic that they are catering to people that want to create preventive medicine.
Yeah.
Not that the way we do it in North America, where it's when you feel sick, you go to the doctor. No, they are actually creating this plan where people get checked every quarter, and they do a full blood work, and so that they can maintain their healthcare and identify potential problems and eliminate them before they become a problem. And they hire us because they wanted to use AI for that. So they're taking so many blood samples, and they have so many data points with blood test results that now we're creating this AI engine that we can actually do this and compare it to other other data on the internet, and produce better predictability on their health, on their future health. And it's revolutionizing. And for me, it's like, to give you an example, my wife got throat cancer this March. She was diagnosed with throat cancer, okay? If we would have done what this clinic is doing, we would have known when it was, stage 1. So she was able to get healed, but it was a 5-month painful process with radiation and everything else, where we could have actually prevented from growing if it would have been proactive, right?
Yeah. Well, thank goodness she was able to get cured. This is a testament to modern technology on that level, right? When I said technologies are getting better, this is exactly my point. We need to keep money flowing into these things so we can, save people, so we can deliver better care and we can have better outcomes. And I think your idea about, or this idea about preventive medicine is exactly what I'm talking about, the kind of value that we can bring globally on the back of information. They're doing the types of things that everybody should be thinking about. How do you use commonly available data about patients? How do you use advanced analytics and comparative outcomes, right? Think about if what we could give them was access to everybody's prior blood tests and their prior outcomes from a research perspective, they could vastly accelerate the effectiveness of their ML and their AI models. They're able to then see against a global data set rather than a limited data set that they're doing as quickly as they can, right? The opportunities for people to be able to use the information that we collect globally to be able to change healthcare are innumerable, right? Think about all the transformations that happened in every other business when it finally got the internet, right? Mm-hmm. Healthcare has not become an internet business yet. And if you look at what happened for music when it got the internet, or you look at what happened for any other industry, the entire business model for the industry transformed. Imagine what that means for healthcare. Imagine startups in Malaysia and Indonesia and North Africa with ideas around how they can use information to model healthcare challenges that they're facing. And then imagine them being able to sell those globally to people who have those similar challenges against information sets that are broadly available in tooling that could be deployed anywhere. Like once we get the idea of the global validity of clinical pathways into the way we think about it and the use of information to sort of drive those models, the opportunities are boundless. And like I said, it's not going to solve every problem, but when we look at every other industry that finally crossed that barrier, you see how broadly they transform, that they become almost unrecognizable on the other side. For healthcare, that would be fantastic. If we could be in a position where we couldn't see how we ever lived with healthcare the way we did before, because we're doing it so much better now, that would be the outcome that would make everybody happy.
And isn't it fascinating? I find it so interesting that we revolutionize every single industry except healthcare. You are right. Like, why are we taking so long to use technology in such an area of our lives that is the most important? When you get sick, you have one goal to get healed. When you're healthy, you have 1,000 goals, right?
Yep.
And yet here we are so behind. So thank you, Duncan, for that. So to be able to do this, I know it takes a while. It's to think this way and to prosper this way, it requires a lot of leadership and a lot of hardships. So I want to take you back all the way down to your last year of high school. What was on your mind when you were there and thinking, do I go to college? Do I get a job? What did you do? And what was your thinking?
Well, for me, I had a challenging period in my teenage years. And so when I was leaving high school, all I wanted to do was get away from school and everybody else. What I ended up doing was starting a couple of businesses with a friend. And we had some amazing times. One of the things that we did, we learned to sell things. It's where I learned to sell was when I was out of high school. I mean, I obviously, like everybody else, did various odd jobs, in kitchens and whatever happens to be. But I started a business in which I bought things and sold things and tried to find ways to get innovative outcomes. My favorite was this technology which allowed us to improve the ventilation in buildings, so at least make it more pleasant for people who are in there. And we got a really interesting outcome that we were able to show that it was going to go to market. But because I was so young, I made a few mistakes and I was kind of contractually blocked out of all the deals I set up. But I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about sales. So that was kind of where I started. After that, I realized I wanted to go back to university. So I ended up studying, I worked for a while, then I went back to university. And I ended up studying physics and space science and applied math and a few other things. And then at the end of that process, I started another business. So most of my life, I have been inclined to start businesses or learn things as my pathway forward.
Yeah, the very first, when you're born with skills. I think God has given us different skill sets to different people. So we're wired for that, right? I remember I went to military school for 2 years when I was a teenager. And that's how I started business. I noticed that people, like the students, wanted to get these soldier boots that were done that only officials could get. But it wasn't against the rules to get the boots. The only problem is that nobody will sell it to them. So I found a way to go to the store where officials bought their boots through another resource that I had that was a corner in the army. And then I was able to buy the boots and mark them up and sell them to students. And I had a lineup of people buying these boots because they looked like they were the best, right? And then I realized that people didn't have enough time, because it was a military school. They didn't have enough time to have proper lunch. So my dad had a restaurant, and I asked him, Dad, can I bring some sandwiches from your restaurant and sell them at the school? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So now I was selling lots of sandwiches, and I was known in military school for being the guy that provided all this comfort to the school system, And
I love
it's
that.
crazy because I just did it because I knew there was a need and I could supply that need. And And we like at that time, my family was not, we were not wealthy or anything. So I used the profits from that to clothe myself or to go for movies or to have fun with my friends.
I think that's a very true point. When you first start in business, usually it's driven by a revenue motive. I mean, some of us are inclined to follow the more traditional pathways, and others, I guess, around the edges, find ways to build businesses to achieve the things we want. I agree with you. I think it is entirely a personal preference thing.
Exactly. Duncan, what was the first business that you launched after college?
It was an internet business, and it informed a lot of things. So, I grew up in a data center. My dad was a programmer in the late 50s. And so I had always been around computing. So when I finished university, the natural place for me to start was again in technology. And I started a business with another techie partner of mine. And so we were two techies in 1993 saying that the internet is a place people should be working and doing things. And so we had really good timing. And it was very good because, we got a chance to learn a lot about areas of implementation and business that we never would have found if we weren't doing it ourselves. In 1993, the internet was wide open and the ideas were new. And so you could pretty much deliver a capability and you'd find somebody who was interested in your ability to do that and would work with you, bring you on as a client. What I did learn throughout the 90s was that you actually do need a business person, because me and my other partner said, I'm the techie, that guy's the business guy. And so we had a business where nobody wanted to be a business guy and everybody wanted to be the techie. And we did great. Being the techie on the internet in the 90s was a very easy task to do. And so we grew to about 15, 20 people in the company, somewhere around there. And we were successful. But when things changed towards the end of the 90s with the dot-com bust and all that type of stuff, our business really didn't have a trajectory because we didn't have a business. We had a bunch of techies being technical. And so I ended up leaving that and going into consulting. But the really important lesson for me that was not lost on me was you need more than just techies in a technology business to be able to be successful. It took me a bunch more tries and iterations before I got the right mix. But from my perspective, the first hurdle is to realize that if you're a techie who's trying to build a business, you really do need a solid foundation in business to be successful in the long run. You have to understand why you're selling something, who you're selling it to, what the benefits are. You have to have your eye on the bottom line. There's so much more to being a successful business person than raw capability. And it's not, it's one of those things that is an easy mistake to make when you're first starting up.
And, I made that mistake actually, because I've come from the technology background too. I have 2 degrees in computer science, and I fell in love with the art and the science of writing software. And I forgot that I still needed to make a living. You're right. I mean, technology is a fabulous way to generate wealth and provide value to society. But that's the thing. You have to provide value to society, right? It's not about, look what I invented, this is beautiful, and it's only for me.
Right.
Right? You have to know. And that actually was one of the first things that hit my face. It's like, how come people don't want to use my software? How come? It's beautiful and it works great, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so basically enough, in the 90s, we built some really great products, but because we didn't have, we built them by accident, right? We had applications we wrote which did some very interesting stuff around high availability and implementation at the system level. We did interesting things that were about managing technology problems within organizations, like applications, early web applications in the like 97 kind of time frame that would have easily fit into modern strategies. But because we were just techies, there was a point solution. Like you said, you built some software, you weren't really worried about, we didn't really know how to sell it. We had some cool stuff that we'd done. I think this is probably a very common thing for people who come from a technical background when they start their businesses.
Yeah, Duncan, I am blessed. The Lord has provided immensely financially. I became financially independent in 2014, where my passive income met my basic expenses for my family and I. And then I just keep growing. My point is, I am blessed, right? That's why I have this time to give back to society. However, I could have been a billionaire, or I should have been a billionaire. The things that I invented or I took that I created myself and my team were probably 5 to 10 years before the market was ready, because that's another thing. To give you an idea, in 1993, okay, I was 2 years in Canada. I started college in Canada again because I needed to make my second degree here so I could get a job. But while I was doing that, I was writing a point of sale system for my brother. He had 5 stores in 5 different towns. This is 1993. It took me about 6 months to deliver the first invoicing system that could be done on a computer at his store, because he was going crazy because they were doing manual invoicing. And then I was starting to manage inventory, and I kept going. So throughout my college career, I kept working on the software program. By the end, when I graduated in 1995, I presented this software that I wrote as my final project, and I got the best in the whole college. Why? Listen to this. It had data warehousing. People didn't know what data warehousing was. I didn't know, but I built this point of sale system distributed in an area where there's 300 square kilometers with 4 different cities. This thing will actually download the information from a dial-up modem. Remember dial-up modems?
Oh, yeah.
And it will send a compressed file. I will ingest that file into a database, and I will produce regional reporting with different sales and inventory data for all the stores. This is in 1995. So I created data warehousing and point of sale systems where that was only for the big box stores like Walmart or, these huge conglomerates had a point of sale system running with AS400s on the back end, right? And it was, all text-based. And I'm like, I only realized that when I saw that people that were doing PC-based point of sale systems started to become millionaires. But I never had the business acumen to actually take it to market.
Yeah, exactly. I think you nailed the head. I've heard this a number of times from people. I've said similar things. When you're a techie, when you're involved in the realization of solutions to problems that exist around you that aren't available on the market, you're already in a space where you are building what is going to be tomorrow's normal behavior for the most part. I mean, obviously, you can have some things you do the wrong way, but in general, the group that we sort of surround ourselves with in the technology space really are innovative thinkers, and they're doing interesting things. It underscores what I was saying earlier on about the need for business thinking in order to be successful, because you can come up with lots of great ideas and you can make solutions that solve your problems, but if you can't think of how you can sell it, you can scale it, you can support it, you can make it a component of a broader suite of capabilities. There's a whole bunch of things that people who are involved in the business surrounding what we do are able to bring to the table. And it's really essential that if we're trying to build these kinds of businesses, that we take those into consideration and work closely with colleagues like that. And if you're a business person and you've got ideas, you may find that there are technologies already out there that people are building that you could partner with people to get delivery on as well. There's a very rich ecosystem of opportunity.
For me, when I realized the problem and the solution was when I already had my company. I was running for 2-3 years in the business, already doing well, and we were consulting for this software company that did real estate accounting software for realtors and real estate agencies. And the guys were so successful that's why they hired us to port their platform into a web-based solution. This is 2008, right? 2007. And when I saw the owner, the guy was an accountant. He was an accountant, and he came from the real estate industry, and then he met another dude, and he happened to also to learn how to code. This accountant learned how to do programming, and then he hired this other dude that was a professional programmer, and they got together, and they built this accounting software specifically for real estate industry. Now, when I finished their port, it took us about 3 years to do their port to the brand new platform. They were already the largest accounting system in North America for the real estate market. Their company is worth more than $100 million now.
Oh. And
if you look at this guy, he was just a business person with a technical idea, but he was a business person first.
Exactly. Fantastic. I love stories like that. It's always uplifting when you hear how people were able to take an idea and make it into something. And I think maybe that's just the engineer in all of us who like to see things get built.
Right. How
think,
do you come up with the solutions for your data, for your healthcare data company? How do you come up with that idea?
I was very lucky in this particular case. I was, after I wrapped up my business in the 90s, I ended up being a consultant, and I worked with some very, very interesting projects, aggregating lab information, dealing with security and identity across very large populations. I was the chief architect for some substantial healthcare realization at the jurisdictional level. I was the chief architect for a hospital aggregation across hundreds of hospitals. I was the chief architect for gathering all of the drug data from a collection of places and making it all available for clinical use in those hospital settings. So I got lots of opportunities to see the problems firsthand that we have with that data interoperability I was talking earlier on. And more importantly, what I got to see was that the tools that were available hadn't been built with very large populations in mind. Because of the character of healthcare, we tend to solve problems at the hospital level or the clinic level or whatever. And those types of solutions don't always scale well because they're driven by workflows and use cases that are local to the area where the applications were built. And so with that kind of background, it was easy for me to understand what I needed in trying to make regional healthcare solutions that were able to share information across hospitals, primary care labs, and everybody else. And so when we took a look at how we would solve that problem, we realized that there was a technology gap that we could fill. And this time, finally, I said, fair enough, I am not the techie, I'm the business guy. And that was a very challenging decision for me, because it pains me to say to this day that I am not the techie, but I am clearly not the techie in our business anymore. I am the business guy. I found it as the idea of what we could do for a business, and I brought on a person who I respect and who I've got nothing but the most positive things to say, James Agnew, to work with. I say brought on. I went to him and said, I've got an idea, and then he came up with an idea. So we really kind of helped each other through this. But James has been the thing that has propelled my success as a business person is the capability and dedication and intelligence of the person I founded the business with. So, part of stopping being the techie is you have to have somebody you can trust. And I was very lucky in that I found somebody I trust implicitly to deliver value. He's as honest and as kind as the day is long, as hardworking as you'll ever find anybody, and whose vision is like mine. Better global health, right? We share an objective of making the world better together. We share an objective of creating capability where none existed. And I think that for me was the real win, was finding people. And it's not just him. We have an entire team now who helped us grow, but finding people who are willing to step up and deliver value, and then trying to find ways as a business person to bring them value back for them doing that. And I think that for me has been, when you say, what made the healthcare piece work, it's the fact that there are so many people willing to try and do the right thing in healthcare. If I go across my company, I have the honor and the privilege to represent a group of people who are transformative in their thinking, transformative in their efforts. These are people who are willing to work 80, 90-hour weeks just because they're trying to get things right for people. There are periods where we've asked people to do crazy things because our clients needed it, and they've always stepped up. And I think that is the most important thing to remember as any business leader or founder, is the only thing that you have going for you that extends beyond your capabilities. And you may be as talented as you want, but to be transformative, you have to be able to bring people together who are going to be transformative collectively. And that, it's kind of a truism, right? We can do more together than we can do on our own. And I've been very lucky to find the best people. I've never worked with people like this before. I've worked with great people all my life, but this group of people are special. And we've got an amazing team, and it's enabled us to be focused on delivering better global health while writing software, while doing projects, while engaging with marketing and all those things. At the heart of what we're trying to accomplish is this idea that health information can be used to transform healthcare. And if we can transform healthcare, we can make the world better, right? And I think that vision enables people to buy into something bigger. But you still have to be very aware that the team that came to the table is giving up their time, their hours, their effort. They're putting their heart into things that are important. And that really is a secret, I think, to building a successful business, is being aware of the contribution of everybody.
For sure. And also finding people in your team that are passionate about what you're doing, because then everybody's pulling towards the same direction, because it's not just a job, right?
Yes.
It's a mission in life, and that is so important. When you have that, there is nothing but success, because then that motivation allows you to go through fire and water, and you will not drown, and you will not get burned, right?
Yeah.
You're going to go through those obstacles that every entrepreneur has, but you're going to be successful at the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
So those obstacles every entrepreneur has. I read a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and that was fantastic for me, because it really opened my eyes that I'm not the only person who's gone through these crazy ups and downs that go with leading a business. I think that part, you mentioned it, any growth trajectory you have is going to involve these heart-stopping moments where you just don't know how you're going to proceed. You just have to muscle through it too. I think that was a really important lesson from that book. How have you experienced that?
Of course, like I thought I was the only one. I mean, I've been in business for 18 years now. I failed my first startup in the 90s. Thank God I didn't have to go bankrupt, because I had enough assets to sell everything and break even. But there's been a lot of hardships in my career, and sometimes you feel like you are not good enough, that there's something wrong with you, that you should be 10 times as big already. But then you really, especially through this podcast, then you really interview people, very successful people like you, and you realize that the ride is very bumpy. It's not like this. It's like this, and eventually you go a little bit up, and even when you're up, it's hard. It's never easy. It's never easy. And people that tell you that it's easy, they're lying. Especially if you have a company that goes from nothing to millions and millions of dollars in revenue in 2-3 years, that's the hardest.
So
when you
hard.
grow exponentially, it's almost a death sentence.
So that was the thing that was really remarkable for us. We've grown very aggressively, and one of the challenges you face is scaling isn't just about selling more, right? Scaling is about growing your management team to be able to manage the larger volumes of people and the more complex environments. It's about understanding the changing needs of the clientele you're facing, because as you become bigger, expectations change of you. There's regulatory frameworks, there's employment frameworks. Everything gets more complicated. As you grow quickly, you shoot through these transformations, which should have taken you a couple of years to digest, in months sometimes. And so the trajectory for a growing company is one in which the dynamic nature of an organization can be as damaging to your efforts as the difficulty of finding clients or other mistakes you could make. It is something that it's hard to anticipate until you go through it. So hopefully anybody who's going through it or about to go through it listens to this and says, oh, I should watch out for it. It really caught up to us was, what works when you're 10 people, it doesn't work when you're 50, and doesn't work is even less effective when you're 100, and even less effective when you're 300, and on and on and on, right? So those things, and if it's only a few years, most of us retain jobs for 5 years. In those 5 years, you go from 5 people to 500 people. It's in 5 years what people would go through an entire career. It's very, very challenging.
Yeah, and those are the people that is most admirable, when you can manage that success and keep it going by changing quickly leadership and stabilizing a company that size. I'll tell you my story. I went from 8 developers in 2009 to 120 developers in 2011.
There you go.
And I had a heart attack.
Yeah.
At the end, I had to stop because my heart wouldn't,
oh, wow. Like a literal heart attack.
Literally had a heart attack. Because I didn't know anything, right? I didn't know I need to hire more management. I didn't know how to create a proper infrastructure, right? I couldn't handle it. So then I had to go back all the way down to 5 people. And then I reinvented myself. Now, we're a very prosperous company with people in 9 countries, and, it's beautiful. But I learned my lessons the hard way, if that makes sense.
One of the things that I really value is I had very hard lessons, but I have had also some people with very, very good advice to me. One of the strengths of getting investors, and I got investors about 4 years into our journey, is they have, if you get the right people, and I have amazing investors and partners, they have the ability to give you excellent advice. They have insight into things that you would miss because they're dealing with other companies who've got their own growth challenges and their own problems. And so they can say, I saw this thing happen over there. They can give you support. They can get your back. It is also a blessing to have people who are able to help you see your way through the challenges you're facing as a business owner, who have vested interest in your success, but have a purview that is much wider than yours, right? Whose jobs take them into spaces where they can see things that you're not going to see because of the differences in your work. I've been very, very lucky to get a team behind me that has helped me understand some of the challenges and some of the ways to address the challenges I'm facing. And that was largely, I didn't have a heart attack because they said, you need to hire some managers here. I said, oh, right. And then we worked through how we do that. You need to start thinking about how you're operationalizing some of this. I got lots of excellent advice that saved me from that particular problem. But, I did not for lack of other challenges on my journey.
For sure. This has been such a wonderful podcast, Duncan. Thank you so much for your time, but I don't want to, overrun it.
Oh, no worries.
Let me ask you one last question. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, let's say in front of the Gardener, what would you write in it?
So what I would write is, there's always hope, right? I think for me, that is the most important thing. I don't know anybody who would believe a billboard telling them there's always hope, but it would be from the heart, right? I think if you are struggling, if you are trying to do something and you want to get an outcome and you want to achieve something, or you've got some objective that you're trying to get to, as long as you can struggle, as long as you can try for it, there's hope, right? I think, the way I summarized it for my kids is, you can be more wise than I am, but I said, use your brain, try hard, be nice. I'd add to the bottom of that, and there's always hope. If you can use your brain and try hard, and you've got hope, you can get what you want. You can build the things you can. There's always an opportunity for you to solve the problem you're trying to solve. And what I see with people is that people struggle and they try to get through things, and it's not easy for people to see that the hope is always there. It's easy to get caught up either in the process, just I'm doing these things because I have to, or to get caught up in the lack of ability and to sort of let things drop and say I just couldn't do that. I think the thing that we all need is the ability to realize that we can do what we set out to do, that we have a pathway to change and that we can get there. It's not that we are going to get there, that you're guaranteed to succeed just because you hope you'll succeed, but you do always have hope and you can always try to get there. And if you don't get there, that's okay, but you tried, right? And I think that for me is the thing I would tell everybody. You can do it. You've got the ability to do it. At least there is a way for you to do it. It may or may not work. You may or may not succeed, but the journey is always worth the effort because you get something from it. So hope is what I would tell everybody.
Wow. That's profound wisdom. Do you know that in the New Testament, hope is one of the most common words utilized? And I remember one passage which says, rejoice in your suffering because suffering creates endurance, and endurance creates a sound mind, and a sound mind gives you hope.
I love that.
So even in your suffering, you have to rejoice, because when you're in trouble, you're suffering, isn't it? When you don't have enough to make payroll, and you don't know what's going on because you were supposed to sell this big contract and they haven't sent you the first check yet, that's when you say rejoice. Don't get desperate. Rejoice in your suffering.
Right? I would say rejoice is another one I would like on my billboard. That's a very good. I love that word.
But the only way that you can get rejoiceful, when you can rejoice in your hard times, is because you know that there is always hope.
Yes.
And the worst teachers in life, I'm going to repeat this again. The worst teachers in life is the ones that remove the hope from your life. And I've had those teachers when say there is no hope. There is no hope. Either you do it or you don't.
Yeah.
Run away, because those are false teachers. You have to always believe in hope. I've been in this world for 51 years, and I failed more times than I've succeeded. I'm still at the top because I always focus myself in hope, just like you have.
Wonderful. Right? Wonderful. What a great message.
Duncan, Thank you so much for your time, brother. If people like to find out more about your amazing company and how they can help out, or if they need more information from you, where can they find you online?
You can just go to smiledigitalhealth.com.
Smiledigitalhealth.com. I even love the company name. It's incredible. So positive. Thank you so much, Duncan. God bless you and have a beautiful rest of the week.
David, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.